Good morning, guys. Happy Monday. Welcome to Ask a Dietitian Facebook Live. I host Ask a Dietitian every single Monday at 9 a.m. MST. However, I've been on holidays the last 2 Mondays, so you guys have probably missed, some of the latest and greatest research coming out and kind of my IBS, gut health, and nutrition updates. So, of course, if you're new to this, as always, if you just type your questions down below, I'm more than happy to answer them. I have a couple of really great things on the agenda today. So I'm going to be talking about some really cool research that just came out in regards to IBS, gut health, the flu, and how we feel our symptoms or how quickly we get over our symptoms. Because we all know, there's people out there who get the flu and are down and out for weeks. There's people out there that get that exact same flu and maybe recover a lot quicker. And researchers have started to look into why this is. So I'm super excited to be sharing some really practical tips and tricks that, may or may not work because the research is still so new, but are super applicable to what we eat and how we eat. So they're super easy, no harm, low risk, and you can do them to help get over the flu faster. Also, I've been getting a slew of emails from my IBSers. I'm so sorry. You guys are all so sick during cold and flu season, but they're wondering what is low FODMAP and what isn't. So we're going to be touching on that. Thought it was easier than answering, 5, 6, 7, 10 emails. We'll just direct you all here. Lastly, I posted on my Instagram live this weekend. If you don't follow me on Instagram, that is my favorite social media platform. So hop over to Instagram and search Andrea Hardy RD, and you will be able to see all of my greatest and latest gut health tips, as well as lots of other great things. And so I posted about how I stacked my FODMAP meal on Saturday night. So guys, I had pasta, I had onion, I had garlic, I had green peas, and I had mushrooms in my dish. And then I asked my audience, do you want to know how I stack these without getting sick? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I think people think that, if I follow a low FODMAP diet, I have to be super strict. I have to watch what I'm eating very closely. And there's no room for, food and fun anymore that I really enjoy. And so carbonara is one of my favorite dishes. I really like a veggie-filled carbonara with lots of mushrooms, lots of green peas. Of course, these are really high in FODMAPs. And, so is onion, garlic, pasta. So I'm going to get into exactly how I did that and how you can do that too. Of course, if you're in the elimination or reintroduction phase, make sure you follow what your dietitian says and save this for afterwards. So without further ado, we're going to get started. As always, ask your questions below. So preventing and getting over colds faster. So I'm so excited to see how gut research is changing. In fact, a new study just came out. It's in animals. However, I do think there's some knowledge translation gems we can take from it. So they looked at mice who had gotten the flu. And they took different mice with different gut bacteria, and they saw that certain mice, even though they had the exact same viral load, so they got the flu, quote unquote, just as bad, some mice were healthier after it, got over it sooner, had less lung damage from it. And so they were wondering, why do some mice get super sick and other mice get better quicker and don't have as many repercussions from having such a severe case of the flu? And they turned to the microbiome to answer this. So they looked at the differences in the gut microbiome, and they found that certain bacteria produce a chemical byproduct called desaminotyramine. That's kind of a mouthful. And so this desaminotyramine is made from gut bacteria metabolizing flavonoids. And if you guys know, I'm a big believer in working on your gut health. And one of my key components of gut health is having a varied diet, high and brightly colored fruits and veg. Flavonoids are polyphenols, which certain gut bacteria can feed off of to produce this desaminotyramine. And flavonoids, luckily, or I'm not sure if it's lucky, but are found in, brightly colored berries. They're found in red wine. They're found in onion, garlic, other cruciferous vegetables. And they're found in my favorite, dark chocolate. So my husband just made fun of me the other day because I told him, I think I eat dark chocolate almost every day. But here we go. I am feeding my good gut bacteria to produce this desaminotyramine. And then when I get sick, hopefully I'll get over it quicker. So basically, a certain type of bacteria in your gut called Clostridium or Bisindescens. Sorry, I slaughtered that word. But, all of these bacteria have a really funny name. So that's the Clostridium or Bisindens. They are best at producing this desaminotyramine. And we know now that this desaminotyramine helps to regulate the immune system. So even though you get the exact same flu, it actually helps to boost immune response. And by boosting immune response, it helps you to protect certain tissues. In these mice, it helped to protect their lungs, and it also helped them to get over the flu sooner. So, of course, everyone's gut microbiome is different. Maybe your gut microbiome doesn't contain enough of these bacteria to produce enough desaminotyramine, which perhaps might be why you feel the flu more severely than others. However, including some of these really brightly bold colored fruits and veg, so lots of berries, you want to think red, purple, teas, coffees, wine, chocolate, cruciferous vegetables, all help to provide your gut bacteria the fuel they need. So that's the flavonoids to produce this chemical that helps to modulate your immune system. So, if I took one thing away from this study, is that I can continue to eat my dark chocolate every day. But, what I think it really applies to is, again, back to that whole foods, back to that variety of brightly colored fruits and vegetables to help improve your gut health and hopefully help to prevent colds and flus from coming on so severely. So if you guys have any questions about that study, I am super happy to answer to the best of my ability. And I'm super excited to see how this applies to humans. So like I said, this was an animal study, so we can take it with a grain of salt. However, it's a very food-first study, and we can very easily translate that into human behavior without risking our health. We're actually encouraging better health with variety and brightly colored whole foods. So there you have it. Okay, so moving on to, did it pop up? The low FODMAP diet and cold and flu season. This is one you guys are all dying to hear about. When you get sick, of course, you gravitate towards, chicken noodle soup, orange juice, lots of rest. Usually our bodies tend to crave those simple carbohydrates. And unfortunately, a lot of those things like ginger ales, orange juice, chicken noodle soup are high in FODMAPs. My patients are like, oh my gosh, what do I do? So during the cold season, I'm going to say, swap this for this. So in terms of juices are high in fructose. If you're not intolerant to fructose, of course, you can consume those. But if you are intolerant to fructose, choosing things like a Gatorade is a really great option. So Gatorade is made with, I think, table sugar, if I remember correctly. Anyways, it's a glucose based carbohydrate. So from a FODMAPs perspective, Gatorade would probably cause less symptoms than an orange juice. However, usually when we're sick, we tend to consume a lot less food. So I find that patients that do struggle, even with these things, are filling their FODMAP bucket so little that they can actually tolerate, orange juice here and there, some onion and garlic, that sort of stuff. In regards to soups, this is where it becomes tricky. A lot of soups are very onion and garlic based, which is high in fructans. I joked on my Instagram story, I really struggle with fructans. So, I have to be careful in how I stack those. Some chicken noodle soup, if that's all you're eating, very likely if you're not super intolerant to fructans, your bucket won't fill, overflow. That's when you get symptoms. So, small amounts of chicken noodle soup here and there is probably just going to be fine. However, I do have some patients that are very sensitive to fructans, very sensitive to onion and garlic. So in that case, Campbell's canned chicken broth, check the label because it's been a while since I've checked it. But that does not have onion and garlic in it. Consomme often does not have onion and garlic in it. Bone broth, depending on how it's made, you can often find it without onion and garlic. Also, it's a good source of protein. So that's kind of nice when, all you gravitate towards when you're sick is simple carbohydrates, getting in a bit of protein, as long as it's onion and garlic-free bone broth. Lastly, of course, you guys know I'm partnered with FODMAP Foods and I'm obsessed with their low FODMAP products. I love Their low FODMAP chicken broth. They also make a veggie broth too. But their powdered chicken broth, I just mix that into a cup of hot water, kind of sip it on the couch when I'm sick. I was actually sick about 4 weeks ago, and it was kind of my go-to for fluids. In terms of sweeter fluids, again, like I had said, that Gatorade over orange juice, Heinz tomato juice. So you can heat that up and have it as a soup, or you can have it cold for a bit of sustenance when you're not feeling great. And then I move on to the hidden FODMAPs. So a lot of medications, a lot of cough drops are hidden sources of sugar alcohols. So these are the polyols. And so certain cough drops, certain sugar alcohols are contained in cough syrups and cough drops. So always check the label for, mannitol, sorbitol, xylitol, all of those sorts of sugar alcohols, those alls. We want to avoid those, but just so you guys are aware, a lot of Buckley's products are low in FODMAP. They don't use those sugar alcohols to sweeten them, whereas, the Tylenol, Robitussin, Advil tend to use those sugar alcohols, the liquids. As well, in terms of cough drops, Vicks, most of the Vicks are not high in FODMAPs, whereas Fisherman's Friends, which are kind of my go-to, as well as Halls, are sugar alcohol containing usually. Again, check the label. They can vary. You can find ones that are low FODMAP, but if you want a super simple solution, Vicks, Buckley's, usually low FODMAP. Again, like I said, I made my list about a year ago. Always double check the label for those polyols, but those are kind of my go-to there. In terms of cold prevention and getting over your cold faster, really and truly sleep, rest, hydration is the key. In terms of prevention, hand washing. So we all have our dirty little cell phones that we take everywhere to us. I know you guys all take these to the bathroom with you. So make sure that you clean those surfaces off, that you wash your hands. And it's not just washing your hands before eating. I think a lot of people forget that they touch their eyes, and eyes, mouth, bacteria are really a common way to spread germs. So I worked in the hospital for a long time, played a role in a lot of, reducing the spread of, bugs, bacteria. I worked in oncology, which is even more important to prevent the spread of bugs and bacteria because so many people are immunocompromised. So I was very careful in that. It's really shocking how often you touch your eyes during the day. So pay attention to that and make sure you're washing your hands so that you don't pick up your family's bugs. And so that's a really great way to help prevent, cold and flu. Of course, flu shot, guys, get the flu shot. The evidence is very, very clear that flu shot helps to reduce risk of hospitalization. Coincidentally, I also worked in ICU before, and it is shocking how many people end up in ICU because of the flu. So getting your flu shot helps to obviously not only keep you safe, but keep society safe, people around you safe, the people you love most safe. And so people most at risk of ending up in ICU care for the flu, something, we think is benign as the flu, or, the elderly and children. So if you have those people in your life, that's even more of a reason to get it. Okay, so there's my, wash your hands, get your flu shot kind of talk. Lastly, I'm going to talk about how I stack my FODMAPs. So this is what happened. I posted making carbonara on my Instagram stories on Saturday night. And so I had traveled to Italy and learned how to make carbonara when I was, 18. And it's one of my favorite simple dishes. So if you guys don't know, carbonara is a very simple Italian pasta. You make your pasta, you take egg yolks, Parmesan, pepper, and then stir it all in together and make like a really nice sauce. You use a little bit of starchy water to kind of make that nice glistening yellowy colored sauce for your pasta. And it's super creamy and delicious without, using cream. For me, there's bacon in there too. Don't forget the bacon. I like to add lots of vegetables to mine. So mushrooms and green peas to be specific. And so as I was taking my photos, I was talking about different FODMAPs. So, I'm boiling my pasta. Pasta is high in fructans. Of course, you can swap that out for a quinoa-based pasta or a gluten-free pasta. My two favorites are Go-Go quinoa and then the Berea gluten-free, the corn-based pasta, are good swaps. I used regular pasta though, so I really loaded up on fructans that day. Then I took onion in a pan, sauteed it, which is high in fructans. I had mushrooms, which is high in mannitol. I added a little bit of garlic, again, those fructans, and then I added my green peas. So, which are high in galacto-oligosaccharides. So I really had a ton of FODMAPs in one meal. And a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, how does she eat so many FODMAPs? I know Andrea has IBS. What the heck? How can she get away with this? Well, guys, it was a very long journey to get to this point. However, I'm going to give you my best tips and tricks so that you can start liberalizing your diet and including these things. Of course, you know, this meal, it would be what I would call a FODMAP bomb. There's a lot of FODMAPs in it. However, let me tell you about my top tips and tricks. So my first one is when it comes to including FODMAPs, you want to consider how you stack those FODMAPs throughout the day. So think of FODMAPs like a bucket. You might have a very small bucket if you have IBS. And as you put more FODMAPs in there, when that bucket overflows is when you get symptoms. On my Saturday, I did not have any FODMAPs for breakfast, lunch, snacks. I saved up all of my FODMAPs for supper. So my bucket should have been quite empty. In fact, you know, I don't even think I had that many FODMAPs on Saturday because it's not like Friday. It's not like your bucket resets, you know, the next day, especially for constipation dominant IBSers. Your bucket can kind of take a while to empty out and digest those carbohydrates. So ultimately, think about how you've had FODMAPs throughout the day. If you haven't had a lot, perhaps you can have more at dinner. Everyone's a little bit different. It takes some experimentation. So the next thing is choosing a day that you're less stressed. So everyone knows there's a connection between your brain and your gut. When you're more stressed, you're more likely to perceive those gut symptoms. So when you're stressed, you're closer to activating that fight or flight response. You're closer to altering your digestion in a negative way. You can create inappropriate conversations between your brain and your gut, which can not only alter your digestion, can also alter how you perceive digestion, can also alter your gut bacteria. So the power of the brain is very significant. On days where I'm less stressed, I'm able to tolerate more FODMAPs. And that's simply because my central nervous system and my enteric nervous system are chilling out. They're relaxed. I had a very relaxing Saturday. I just read, I sat on the couch, I got groceries. I didn't really do much. So my stress levels were low. I knew I could go into this meal tolerating more. You know, on a super busy work week, I might not be able to do that same. And that's just kind of learning my body and learning my digestive system that helped. Tying into that, the next thing is trusting your guts. So of course, when you have IBS, you don't trust your guts. That makes sense. You know, they haven't done a lot of really great things for you. However, if you learn to start to kind of trust that your body's able to do exactly what it needs to do, whether that's through mindfulness, meditation. I teach my patients, you know, 5 deep belly breaths, mindfulness, meditation, body scans before you go to eat. It can help to break that inappropriate conversation between your brain and your gut and build in that trust. So going into this meal, I trusted that my body could digest it. That trust piece is key. There was actually a really funny study done. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember when. Way back in the day. It's kind of a long story. Somebody was shot in the stomach. He was left with like a giant gaping hole. And then somebody used him as an experiment to see, you know, when you're sad, you know, how does meat digest when I put it through this hole, which actually leads to your small intestine or your stomach. When you're happy, how does your body digest? When you're angry, how does your body digest? And we know that, you know, when you're stressed, when you're you know, not happy, when you don't trust your guts, it very likely has an impact on how your gut moves, how your gut digests, how your gut bacteria are functioning. So building in that level of trust and learning to start to explore body trust non-judgmentally can really help to improve symptoms. The next thing is when you've gone through elimination phase and reintroduction phase. First of all, if you haven't reintroduced, oh my gosh, please see a dietitian and reintroduce. We know that following the low FODMAP diet long-term is detrimental to gut health, is specifically fructans, galacto-oligosaccharides. Those are prebiotics, guys. You want to include those to fuel good gut bacteria. However, you want to introduce properly. So see a dietitian if you haven't. There's my plug for that today. Ultimately, you know, continuing to consume FODMAPs over the long term And working on all these elements of gut health has allowed me to improve my FODMAP tolerance. So working on stress management, working on variety, working on fiber, working on, improving my gut health long-term, which we talk a lot about in our patient visits, is really key to, being able to include these things long-term. So if you never eat onion, garlic, any sorts of fructans, very likely when you go to eat them, your body is going to be like, whoa, I haven't digested this in a while. I got to figure out how to do it, which can tend to exacerbate symptoms. You don't have the right kind of bacteria to break those sorts of things down. So you do want to include them in small amounts as you tolerate long-term to create bacterial diversity and to improve bacterial abundance. So you want more good bacteria. You want a bigger variety of bacteria in your gut. Including FODMAP strategically is really key. And so for me, I got about a foodborne illness after my husband and I traveled to Montreal in the summer, and I was really frustrated because I had to kind of regress in terms of my FODMAPs. I got right back to, figuring out, what my FODMAP tolerance was, as well as working on gut health. And now I'm kind of back to my baseline, which is, I have to watch my FODMAPs, but I don't have to be neurotic about it. So continually consuming FODMAPs in small amounts as you tolerate is going to help bacterial diversity and abundance. Very important, especially those FODMAPs that are prebiotics. So, fructose, lactose, not prebiotic. However, fructans, galacto-oligosaccharides are prebiotics, are important for gut health. A lot of those polyol foods contain a lot of polyphenols, antioxidants, those flavonoids we just talked about. So including them is super important for gut health. And I think we're going to start to see how those phytochemicals really play a role in gut health, which is why I so very much push a variety. So FODMAP diet is not forever. If you take one thing away today, FODMAP diet is not forever. Lastly, of course, prophylactically managing your symptoms. So for me, using things like ibergas, IBGard, some other herbals that are proven evidence-based to help manage your digestive symptoms as prescribed or recommended by your physician in conjunction with your dietitian is a really great way to manage symptoms. So a lot of my times, patients and I talk about long-term strategies. So if you're going out for dinner, if you're going to a friend's house, you're going to be consuming a lot of FODMAPs, what strategies can we have in place to minimize your symptoms? And a lot of times it can be relying on those evidence-based herbals to help manage those symptoms. So it's something to consider. It's something we plan for in our patient visits as we move through the FODMAP process. But really it gives you the confidence to know that you can have these things strategically. So like I had said, this pasta was regular pasta. I could have swapped it out for a gluten-free pasta had I chosen, but I knew I could tolerate it. It's an option. Onion, garlic, again, those are oil, they're water soluble. So if you fry them up in oil, the FODMAPs are in the bulb, they're gonna stay there. So I could have cut those onion slices really big, imparted the flavor of onion into that dish, and then pulled the onions out. Could have used garlic flavor olive oil. I wanted to include some of those fructans to, again, work on my gut health. Lastly, I tolerate sugar alcohols quite well, so I wasn't super worried about the mushrooms. And then I do eat a lot of galacto-oligosaccharides. In total, maybe there was a 1/4 cup of green peas in there, which technically is high FODMAP. However, it wasn't a huge portion, like, sitting down and having an entire cup of green peas. So I did include those. So ultimately, I chose a whole bunch of different FODMAPs. I chose them in a way that I knew I could tolerate them, and I built in all these extra measures. So guys, those are my 3 topics for today. If you guys have any questions, please ask them now. I'm just going to change the title here. Oh, it's not working. Just kidding. We're just going to keep how I stack my FODMAPs up. So guys, if you have questions, ask them below. I'm more than happy to answer them. I host Ask a Dietitian live every single Monday at 9 a.m. MST. It doesn't just have to be gut health. However, that's what I'm super passionate about, and that's what I practice most in. I do a lot of other fun things too. I'm not a one-trick pony here. But it tends to be, you know, what my most popular questions are about. So I am more than happy to answer those. Please be sure to, if you're not comfortable asking on Facebook, shoot me an email. So you can shoot info@ignitenutrition.ca, and we will add your questions to the question list. Every week we go over some really great latest, greatest research and how we can apply that to our lives. We talk about really common IBS questions. We talk about a variety of different gut health things. We have a ton of episodes on here. I'm going to get better at loading them up to YouTube, but right now they are all on Facebook. And of course, make sure you like my Facebook page so you get reminders every single week to watch this video. I will see you guys all next week at 9 a.m. MST. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.